And
Yep.
we're going to move on to an investing topic. This one should be evergreen because we're going to talk about two keys, two things Gerry looks for in a good investment. That's it. Two. That's it. Not three, not four. I asked him to think of four. He was like, I can't think of four. I've only got two qualities I'm looking for. You get these right, and you have a good chance for success. Nothing is certain, and obviously, if you aren't patient enough and your time frame is too short, then you're really getting in dicey areas. But Gerry, we got two items that we're looking for investment success, qualities in a good company. What are they?
Well-managed companies in front of fertile fields of growth.
That's it. Okay, segment's done.
Number two.
All
The
right.
hard part is where you try and figure out what those are.
Yes, they.
Who are those well-managed companies, and are they in front of fertile fields of future growth?
Well, first of all, maybe we can start with the well-managed companies. Well, maybe good management is like um, good acting. It's tough to define, but bad acting when you see it. So
That's a good one. I'm not sure I would hang my hat completely on that by any means. That may be a good place to start,
yeah, but
because we certainly know. Unfortunately, a lot of times it's after the fact, and as Dick Taylor used to say, my mentor, it's part of the reason we own 40, 50 companies.
can I finish this? Show I listen.
Say again. I'm sorry.
Can I finish this? Because that's to show
Oh,
I listen to my friend and employer. It's because you never know when someone's lying to you.
exactly. Yeah, so you got it. So, but the better that you get at looking into people's eyes and trying to determine whether they're honorable people, and that's really what we're looking for when we're making investments. And some of the greatest venture capital investors I've ever come across have said they know within 5 minutes whether they're going to give a company money based on the people that they're talking to, and that's really amazing. And so it tells me that the great successful venture investors have been able to determine someone's validity as a manager really quickly. I think that's generally the case, but I'm not willing to quite go that far, because I think, especially when you're talking on venture capital side of it, which we've been on, of course, as you know, um, sometimes you get these entrepreneurs that are, I hate not to offend anybody, but they might be a little bit geeky, and it's a little hard to tell. They're brilliant, and it's a little hard to tell necessarily right off the bat. Especially in the startup world, I don't want to sell somebody short because they may not be the greatest, most polished, most savvy communicator, because sometimes they're the most brilliant people. Now, often those people will, if they're very smart, will find a partner that can communicate really well. And oftentimes that's from the business side of the equation. And usually are good communicators, honorable people, that whole thing. Those are and that's a bit of advice to young entrepreneurs getting started that are brilliant technicians, but may not be the greatest communicators in the world. Find somebody that you trust, that is honorable, that is a good person, that knows business, understands their way around a balance sheet and income statement, and can help you. But we digress. Well-managed companies, the character is number one. Absolutely. I mean, what most problems you have, if somebody's going to lie to you, obviously, they're of low character. Uh, your ability to be able to look into somebody's eyes as a manager and kind of sense, is this somebody that I feel I can trust, that's telling me straight? That's an art that not everybody has, but it's not something that you can teach. It's just a feel, and I think that's again, like I said, the great venture investors will have said, they know in 5 minutes. I would say that's probably true of most investors, successful investors who do evaluate for long-term investment, and I mean long-term, 10, 20 years is short-term. Long-term is much longer. You just start to develop the ability to say, that this is a real guy, or what, I don't trust this guy, and there's sliminess here that usually I feel like I can pick that out right away, and we've become more adept at over the decades. So yeah, well-managed companies.
Well, something I would say to that also is it's not just that they'll lie to you. If you catch them lying to someone else, they're going to lie to you too. So
Oh, of course.
don't
No,
fall for that trick. It's only a matter of time.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So well managed companies. Is there any other technical aspect you can think of management that really matters? Obviously, the character is one thing.
Into the equation, because you can have somebody that's just a really good guy but is incompetent in the sense, they don't know how to run the nuts and bolts. Most public company, I mean, by the time somebody gets to the point where they're running a public company, they're pretty adept at the competency of running the nuts and bolts and sort of the technical side of being a manager. And I think that, frankly, people that are adept at that are not that hard to find. And generally speaking, well, I just said, you can have somebody that's of high character, they're a good person, but they're just not very, they're not particularly good at managing the nuts and bolts. Most often, though, again, when you find somebody that has the motivation to want to be in business and they're of high quality character, they're probably pretty sharp people that are also competent in running in the nuts and bolts side of it. At least that's been my experience. Now, there have been times, and this is not to say that you have to be, and I think this is really important, you don't have to be buddies with these guys, right? I mean, and I want to be careful about, that it's all a litmus test of, hey, this is a guy I want to go have a beer with or whatever. No, but it should be a guy that you say, this is a guy I want running my company, or a gal, just to be 21st century. But I think that is an important point to make, that you can have somebody that, maybe their, their interests are different from a personal standpoint, or they're just personally not, it's not a guy I'm going to go out and play golf with necessarily, but that doesn't mean they're not excellent managers. So you have to go in there not with the idea that I'm going to try and make friends with this guy. You have to go in there with the idea of what's your criteria? What are you looking for to measure character? What are you looking for to measure, technical capability? And I don't mean technical like the technician that is necessarily the inventor. Although with smaller companies, that's often the same. And when you get the unusual circumstance, and they're out there, where they're a particularly strong technician from like the engineering standpoint, if you will, and they're the innovator, and they're also of high character and good at nuts and bolts business, that's a great combination, and not common, frankly. And in fact, again, as you get to be a public company and beyond, like even a seasoned public company, more so a seasoned public company, again, you're generally going to have people that are nuts and bolts okay. Now I also want to mention that when you're talking about management, another thing that we take and this is a company, it's private and public company, but more so public. We want to know who's on the board and what they're all about and where they come from, and do we know them? Do we know people that know them? Do we, because they're the ones that are making the decision. They're the closest to the company, and they're the ones that are making decisions on management. The CEO is hired by the board. And fired by the board. There's multiple aspects. That's why, I say, what are 4 things? When you ask me the question, I say, well, I don't know 4 things. Well, I probably have 400 things, but they all stem from those first 2 well-managed companies, fertile fields of future growth. And
worst YouTube video title of all time: the 400 things you need for investment success.
Exactly. So it's much easier to break it down to 2. I would say we probably needed a separate podcast to do fertile fields of growth, because that's in and of itself, it's a whole podcast. So we should come back to that.
We'll come back to it.
I gave you the answers, the two things, and we touched on. It took us a podcast to do one. We'll do another podcast that's the second part of that.
Got you. Well, with fertile fields of future growth, you're talking about basically the potential of the market, though, right? I mean, that's the concept. We're going to have to get into it.
You got deeper into that.
Yep.
That gets into narratives and all of that.